Okay, let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome to the channel. If you've never been here before and you want to learn all about music tech and looping, then start now by clicking the subscribe button, hit that bell, and you won't miss anything. So it's been quite a while since Boss brought out a new looper, and they've brought out two. They brought out the RC-5 and the RC-500. But why? First and foremost, the RC-5 and RC-500 have now been upgraded for 32-bit audio. They also have 32-bit floating point processing, which is a nice upgrade compared to its older brothers of the RC-3 and the RC-30. The engine inside has also been upgraded for stereo looping, going from 9 hours to 13 hours. But the big visual change is the LCD color display for viewing your looping options and also your editing parameters. They've also expanded things like the drum kits, so there's now 57 drum patterns and you can use any drum kit with that pattern. Also, each kit has an A and B variant, which is really useful for things like verse and chorus. As before, you can expand the controls with an external foot switch, an expression pedal, or even MIDI. And talking about MIDI, they've actually made a little bit of space saving this, so instead of using USB, they're using mini TRS jacks. As before, it's 99 memory saves, and also you can upload and download your loops or WAVs via a computer. There's loads the RC-5 and the RC-500 can do, but should you get one? Now, if you don't have any, then I would recommend going for the RC-5 or the RC-500, depending on your budget and depending on what you need, as whether one-track looper, a two-track looper, and those drum machine patterns from what I've seen look fantastic. However, if you have an RC-3 or an RC-30, the RC-5 and RC-500 are nice upgrades, but are they worth the money? Previously with Boss, what they've been doing is integrating the circle loopers from the RC-505, the 202, and the RC-10R. I found these really useful. They're a nice, easy to understand graphic interface. You know exactly where you are on the loop, and you also know whether you're overdubbing or just playing or recording. You even have that circular display on the RC-1. However, it looks like Boss are leaning towards LCD displays to show you your loops. I think this is a clever move because what you can do is show more things with an LCD display. That's just a natural thing that it can do, and it's really easy to understand where you are in the loop, whether you're 1 bar in or you're 2 bars in of a 4-bar loop. And also it splits up as well from what I can see on the images and the videos, where you've got track 1 and track 2. Now, a couple of nice things that they've done with the RC-500 with that XLR input. With the RC-30, when you plug the XLR input in, then the output of the microphone comes out of both the left and the right. And I've done a video all about dual mono looping and the reasons why I do that. If you want to see that video, I'm going to leave it in the cards so you can have a look at it. But this time, a lot of work's been done under the hood where you can actually do a little bit of routing. So that's a really nice feature. Also, the multicolored lights above each button, really, really useful, and I'm all over that. I think that's a great, great idea, because if you're playing, maybe you're in a stage environment, it's quite dark, it's very, very easy to just look down and then see whether it's red, it's yellow, it's green. So therefore, you know whether you're in record mode, you're in overdub, or you're in play mode. Now, the RC-30 has a 2 big button pedal thing, what they've gone with this time from the RC-10R and now the RC-500. I've got to remember all these names. They've gone with the push button switches. Now, some people like these switches and some people don't. Some people find that they're too small and you end up buying these little buttons that go over the top of them. Some people love them because they're a lot more responsive. Now, another nice feature of the RC-5 and 500 is how you save your presets. From previous loopers, you saved a memory, it would just save the loops. But if you've used one of the memories with, you've used the drums and you've used a specific drum kit with a specific sound, it also saves that as well. It also saves all the internal routing per memory, and that's a real big advantage. Initially, I always think about how I would use it, but it's not just about how I would use it. There's lots of different variants or different ways of using a looper. I know one person who uses a looper purely as a backing track machine, and he has each patch set up the way he wants it. Now imagine using that with the drum kits, and then all those drum kits are saved, all your presets are saved, all your routing is saved. The one thing I think that Boss have missed is the way the pedals are laid out. However, there's a lot more customization of the pedals that you can do, and certainly if you add an additional foot pedal, you can personalize that a lot more than you used to be able to do with things like the RC-30. Now, the big surprise for me was that they continued on with AC power and also battery power. So even with all those advancements, the battery power is really, really useful. And in the RC-500, it's only 4 AA batteries. So I have 2 questions. One, how do you use your looper? Are you using it just for practice? Are you using it in a gig? Are you using it as a backing track machine? And second of all, if you have something like the RC3 or the RC30 or the RC1 or the RC10R, are you now looking at the RC5 and the RC-500? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, the only thing I find really weird is the naming. So they could have said the RC4 and the RC40. This would be a natural upgrade to the RC3 and RC30, just the next one up, but they called the RC-500 the RC-500. Now, if I say 500, my brain instantly thinks of the 505, 5 tracks. That's what we normally think of, but then the RC-300 is 3 tracks. So because they've given it a 100 name, I find that a bit weird, if I'm honest. Calling it a 300 or 500 or 505, normally that's a flagship for me in my book. When it comes down to Boss and the history of what they've done, they had the RC-50, which is the old version of the RC-300, so they can't call it that. So they can't call it the 50, so they have to call it something else, but they've put it in as a 500. If you have a look at Boss's pedals, of course, they've got the single pedals, and they actually have a 500 series pedals. Have a look at them, and they look incredibly similar to the RC-500. So I think this is where they got the name from. I think it's because of the actual shape of it and what it looks like. So the reverb, the modular, and the delay 500, the DD500, things like that. Now they've gone the RC-500, so it's adding it to the 500 series as opposed to how it's named with all the other loopers. But apart from that little confusion, should you upgrade to an RC5 or an RC500? Before you go onto a website and start throwing your looper that you have right now onto it to sell it, have a look at the specs of your looper. Then have a look at the specs of the RC5 and RC500 and decide for yourself. If you've been absolutely hankering for a looper that saves the drum patterns as well as your loops and you've been missing that, then you need to get the RC5 or 500. If you've hit that 9-hour limit time on recording and you need a bit more time than this has 13 hours, then you need to get an RC5 or an RC-500. The big one for me is the graphical interface and also the fact that it's now 32-bit. So the quality of the audio has gone up massively, and also the way you actually use the device when you're going to interact with it, you're going to see where your loops are. That might be a massive advantage for you from a sense of performance or just a sense of creation. When it comes down to loopers, the first company most people think of is Boss, because they brought out things like the Boss RC-20 almost, where are we, 19 years ago? And it is a fundamental part of a lot of people's pedal boards as well as a lot of people's creations. Now, I'm a loop artist where I use a looper predominantly, whereas some people only use it maybe for 1 or 2 tracks in their entire set, or if you're using it as part of a band. But for me, the RC5 and RC500 are a good move. The name's a bit weird, but that's because of the 500 series, not 500, the 505. I think Boss needs to do 2 things. 1, send me some so I can review them and play with them properly. And 2, they need to look at their customer feedback. The one thing that I see all the time is all about the Boss 505. The 505 is a fantastic tabletop looper, but loads of people want it to be metal. It was made out of plastic with plastic connectors, and it does take a little bit of a hit if you're certainly taking it on the road. And I would like to see a 505 that is a metal construction, but also still with the rubber pads. So finally, what do you think about Boss's releases, the 5 and the 500? Let me know in the comment section below. If you have found the content of this video useful, then please give it a like. It helps me, it helps YouTube send it out to more people. If you'd like to support me a little bit further, you can do. You can buy one of my t-shirts, which is on teespring.com, and you can also buy me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com. All the links are in the description box below. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.